Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Sudi, and welcome back to the channel. Recently, a lot of drama has gone down in the Pit community, and of course, your boy is here to explain what's been happening. Now, if you're new to the Pit, things work quite differently here compared to other parts of Hypixel. For one thing, the game mode is PvP based, but a little something called Mystics change all that up. Before we get started, I have two big announcements. First of all, Pitfall now has a Discord server. Join to interact with other viewers and hear about upcoming projects. Additionally, I have officially launched a Patreon in order to finance future uploads. Your support will allow me to continue to make high quality content, and as an added bonus, Patreon members get to have super early access to unreleased videos. For only $5 a month, get started by watching the complete history of botting documentary, which is almost half an hour. Also, you should subscribe, but whatever. Now then, let's get on with the video. Mystics are items which can be enchanted with custom abilities in order to benefit the user. Each enchantment does something a little bit different, and some, in combination with each other, are extremely overpowered. Take an unnerfed Billionaire Lifesteal for example. Billionaire increases damage, and Lifesteal is an enchantment which heals a little bit every time you hit someone. In combination, the extra damage means extra healing, which in turn made Billionaire Lifesteals one of the most broken items in this game mode.
Alright, now I'm full health. Ready? Wow.
Why'd you die?
Wow.
No drop.
The player base often takes part in trading, as it's actually a really good strategy for gaining wealth. Some players trade for many of the best items only to resell them without ever leaving the safety of spawn. Unlike Skyblock though, the Pit doesn't have its own currency. Technically speaking, pure is the standard, meaning feathers, pants bundles, or a certain amount of Philosopher's Cacti, but there isn't enough of that for someone to consider selling their godly items for. Thus, many players have turned to the real-life market, usually PayPal. Hypixel strictly prohibits this, but the Pit has long been considered the oldest anarchy game mode on Hypixel, a play on FitMC's iconic line describing 2B2T. Since the Pit was in prototype for over 2 years, it received little staff attention regarding hackers, exploiters, boosters, and really anyone breaking the rules. The game mode isn't big enough for Simon to worry about IRL trading, considering that it doesn't affect the game's economy all that much. It's basic economics, supply and demand. If a product is in low supply and high demand, the price will skyrocket, as is the case with Pit. Top-level mystics are very rare, and any given high-tier combination may have less than a dozen or fewer versions in existence. These rare items go for quite a lot in the player market. Let's take a Mega Longbow Sprint Drain for example. This bow essentially guarantees the user will have permanent speed 2, which is extremely useful. Sprint Drain Mega Longbows never sell for below $150, and that's often pushed to $170 or higher. Because of the Pit's history, the game mode attracts many individuals with bad principles. Bending and breaking the rules is one thing, but many players have no problem with lying, deceiving, and betraying others in order to make a profit. As covered on my channel previously, this game mode has no shortage of people who straight up lack morality. For example, just a few months ago, a player by the name of RagePit sent another user a mod which contained code that allowed RagePit to get that user's account. This allowed Rage to steal all of their items, worth close to 10 grand. But that's just one rather large example. People scam and get scammed every day in this community, but not often is a story as big as this one. Many of you probably are familiar with a situation which occurred over the summer where I was scammed of a pair of $300 pants by a group of players known as the Huntsmen. Many top players were part of this group, including Major Event, Minor Event, or Cody, KDCon, Zac, or Yellow, OTDX, and I'm Just a Fish. Because of the nature of Mystics, people often share items with each other in order for one player to have a full god set of sorts at a time. This item sharing is how quite a bit of drama has gone down just recently and over the past half year or so. The Huntsmen are now a broken group, bitter and hateful. It all started when a dude named Rezzy showed up with $50,000. The group idea of bonding together to conquer started all the way back in the middle of 2019, when a group chat of glitch abusers called the Black Slacks realized that working together actually has benefits rather than being lone wolves. The group voted whether or not to become a group focused on hunting, and everyone said no. Katie Khan vetoed their vote, and thus the Huntsmen were born. The Huntsmen back then also included Orr and Skunker, who all did everything they could to get richer, whether that be market monopolization of Robin Hood bows, or using inside information from the soon-to-be-released update to gain wealth. Everyone eventually became close friends. Just a few weeks following the outset of the 1.0 fall release of the pit, Skunker and Katie Khan had a bit of a kerfuffle of sorts. Katie Khan asked for Skunker's God set items, but betrayed Skunker and kept everything. The strategy of lending missing God set puzzle pieces was an effective one, and items got tossed around like they were hot potatoes. Over the summer, I lent Major Event a highly effective pair of XP grinding pants, at which point he gave them to Zac, who gave them to Ochel, who gave them to Katie Khan, or something along those lines. Whichever way it went, Cade ended up with the pants and decided to keep them, which is how this whole drama saga started. A couple months later, one of Cade's friends had used inside information to find out that Minikloon's patch of the Peroxide 1 enchantment was phony. They understood that once the mainstream player base realized this, the price would once again skyrocket, as the patch had caused a market crash. Cade's friend bought a ton of Godly Peroxide 1 pants, at which point some of the other huntsmen asked for them. Cade's friend said no, as he had bought them for himself, but offered to sell to the huntsmen at a lower price so they could still profit. But he was kicked out of all the group chats. After this, the huntsmen started to try crash lobbies in order to duplicate using a little something called Gold Nano Factory. Katie Khan claims to have been excluded from these particular illegal activities and eventually asked for some of his items back, fearing he was getting scammed. Miner said nah, and Cade was kicked out of the group. Both Zac and Miner told me that Cade was being pretentiously annoying, and they got fed up with him and just kicked him out. That leads us to today, or last month I should say. This is off topic, but drop a like if you'd like to see a complete history of Huntsmen. Anyway, at this point, they are a highly volatile group, consisting of OTTX, Fish, Major, Miner, Zac, and Ochel. Having shared accounts and boosted each other, their next project became Jessica. For some reason, these guys are obsessed with getting onto leaderboards. Oliver has single-handedly gotten 2 accounts to Prestige 35 max level. Of everyone who has ever maxed out, a quarter of them belong to Huntsmen. Something that you need to understand about the leaderboard is this. The numerical positioning of people in the top 10 is entirely dependent on the UUID of the Minecraft account, which is kind of strange. Even though 33 people are technically tied for first, only some of them will ever see themselves in the top 10. I'll dive deeper into this complicated system when I eventually make a documentary on this game mode's leaderboards, but for now, all you need to know is that the position is entirely dependent on a bunch of random characters that no one other than Mojang has any control over. It's actually possible to know who will have what position based on their UUID, which is part of the reason why Huntsmen chose to grind the accounts that they do. Enter Jessica. Jessica is a pit player who was Prestige 20 before OTDX and Miner Events started boosting her account. She had been an acquaintance to these guys for a while, but was only somewhat close with Miner. They decided to boost her because her account had an FFUUID. This, for some reason, means it's guaranteed a spot on the leaderboard. Anyway, the boys give Jessica the entire Huntsman set, which includes every single potential God set item at its best possible level. It was a matter of days before OTDX and Miner had her maxed out. Right around this time is when a guy named Rezi showed up. Now, what you have to understand is that Rezi is a unique phenomenon. This guy is a 19-year-old who has way too much money. Word on the street is that he just recently bought 17 Bitcoin on top of the other 5 which he already had. Give me 1 second just to Google, holy shit.
I'm in the empire business.
Hey Rezi, if you're watching this, I wouldn't mind if you decided to, spread the wealth. Anyway, Rezi decided to drop the biggest trade offer this game has ever seen. Whether or not it was a troll, this man went to the Huntsman and was like, yo, I'll give you 50 grand for the entire set. This single sentence set off a ticking time bomb that no amount of Tom Cruise Mission Impossible shenanigans could stop. The huntsmen immediately started debating how they would split the money. Considering that each of them had contributed different items, they decided to just split evenly. But this is where the drama began. Jessica, who had literally joined the group 2 days earlier, would also be in line for 15% of the wealth. 50 grand divided by 7 is about $7,200 per person. But Zac, Oliver, I'm Just a Fish, and Ochill weren't exactly open to the idea of Jessica literally getting $3,600 for each day of her being in the Huntsman. Initially, everyone was in agreement with an even split because it was simplest, especially because both Minor and Jessica were highly objective of doing anything else. They decided to offer Jessica the generous offer of $2,000, but she declined, despite the fact that everyone else was on board with that. What you have to understand is the relationship the Huntsmen had with each other. Major and Minor, being brothers, are obviously close. The same goes for Oliver and Fish, who are both British. From what I recall, Zac and Ochill are in a similar situation. This feeling of brotherhood was mutual amongst everyone, having spent so much time together in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if these individuals have spent literally thousands of hours in calls together over the duration of the past 18 months or so. The one exception to this is Jessica. According to Zac, Jessica wasn't really a huntsman, or huntswoman I should say, and she was more of Minor Event's e-girl, so to speak. Quite frankly, I know nothing about Jessica, and the same can be said for Zac, Fish, OTDX, and Ochill. The first time I heard her name under any pretense of relevancy was when the Huntsman set showed up on her account. Zac tells me during that time, Oliver would call with her just as he was leveling up, and as soon as he was done, she would immediately rejoin a VC with Minor. On top of that, she supposedly made no attempt at conversation with anyone other than Cody. Now, let me say this. I think it's entirely reasonable to choose who you want to hang out with. Hell, I straight up ghost people sometimes in my DMs because I don't want to deal with that type of thing. However, the thing I don't at all agree with is the audacity of someone to ask for a $7,000 share of the profits when that person basically put nothing into the group. No time, no effort, no laughter. Subsequent to the discussion with no resolution, Zac made a group chat with everyone except Cody and Jessica. Now, being given the chance to speak without scrutiny, Fish, OTDX, Ochill, and Zac were very vocal that Jessica shouldn't get jack shit for doing nothing. The conversation turned to an analysis of Cody's behaviors towards Jessica, categorizing him as what boils down to a simp. After a 40-minute long voice chat which Major neglected to join, the fam wondered if Cody would really choose an e-girl over the boys he's known for years. When approached with the prospect of consultation, he refused, saying he was talking to Jessica, and then ignored any further communication attempts. Cody actually left the group chats, and Major started ignoring everyone else as well. Zac believes that Major, Minor, and Jessica had been scheming. Minor Event then joined Hypixel on OTDX's alt account, transferred every item to his main, and tried to do the same with Zac's account, but Zac had changed the password after hearing what happened to Oliver Tron. Now, almost every item of value that Zac, Oliver, and Ochill had been taken by Minor Event and Jessica. Quite a few of Fish's items as well had been pitched in, but fortunately Cody didn't have access to I'm Just a Fish. Minor and Jessica told me that they decided they didn't want to associate with such toxicity after the Huntsman said such hurtful things about them, and thus decided to scam. In hindsight, Zac told me that he thinks Major may have been talking to Jessica and Minor during their 40-minute discussion that was supposed to be private, hence his supposed change in behavior, after agreeing to find a compromise split and then not saying anything at all. This can in no way be verified, but the argument has some merit. Zac believes that Major switched sides when he realized he could get 33% of the share of Huntsman items on top of his current god set, rather than the 1/6 or 1/7 he would have gotten had things been fair. This wouldn't actually be the first time that Major Event has conspired to scam people, playing both sides and eventually leaving with an unwarranted profit. As many of you know, Jeffrey Colin was scammed by Major a while ago. If you aren't caught up, Colin enchanted an Executioner 3 Moctezuma 3 Gold Boost 2 sword. Major asked to borrow it for a video, and while the sword was in his possession, he passed it to Minor. Cody obviously didn't give a shit about Colin and hilariously stalled for time as Jeffrey was desperately trying to get his $800 plus item back. During their conversations, Miner said he couldn't get on Hypixel because, and I quote, "Man's just having a wank in it, like pumping out a fat one for the old Marge in my bed. It's calm though. I got my bed rins back in the wank, so it's sound G, it's sound." After translating this message into Chinese, it was clear that Jeffrey was never going to get his sword back. In defending himself, Major claimed that after Colin's unexpected ban, he was pressured into scamming the sword by Minor Event, and relented. I had accused Major of orchestrating some of the scams that he or other huntsmen pulled. Major denied that, but it's come to my attention that everything he said there is complete deception. As shown by this footage, recorded by Major himself, you can see Major tell Jeffrey to attack, knowing that Colin was blatantly cheating. And then he called a mod in to get Jeffrey banned.
He's
Imagine
cheating
being
so
so
hard.
rich that you just pull out.
He's not cheating. I
Yes,
do
he
that.
is.
No, he's not. Is he?
Yes.
Me? Of course I'm
Oh, look
cheating.
at Major.
Where's Major?
He's okay.
You are very rich.
I have a spade, so
Oh
I
my
can
god.
kill
I'm
him.
going to die.
I don't know where you went.
Major's winning, Major's
This guy's
better,
chasing-
Major's better PvP.
Jessica!
I do nothing to
I'm
him.
coming, I'm coming.
Yeah, he's bounty hunter.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Wait,
Yeah,
I'm
wait.
going to die.
What was the bounty?
Yeah, use bounty hunter.
Why did who
Elliot said
deleted
he-
general?
Okay,
Can you
Elliot
stop?
said 2 months. That's right. Run. You don't want the smoke.
GG.
30, and then some other dude killed me.
Oh my god, you do so much.
Oh.
I love Night
What?
I just got banned.
What?
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
No,
god.
was I Watchdog?
What?
No, stop.
What? How?
No.
I got stabbed in.
Seriously?
What
Oh my
the hell?
god!
That was with your pants too.
No, that's great.
Bruh.
What pants?
Oh my goodness.
This clip has everything I love about Hypixel: blatant cheaters, masterful manipulations, and corrupt staff members. Given this pattern of behavior, everything that Zac believes is entirely in the realm of possibility. Additionally, Major refused to even acknowledge the fact that he's in the moral wrong by citing he doesn't want to go against Miner's wishes. If I were him, I would feel at least some obligation to at least partly compensate my former partners in crime, but that's entirely up to him. There's nothing that can be said in order to change anyone's mind at this point, since the items have already been scammed and some of them have been sold. This leaves half the huntsmen with 0 items after playing for months and months, and the other with insurmountable amounts of profit. Personally, I pity the victims, especially because I was very close friends with Ochil a while ago. Oliver and Zac are both quitting, and Oliver actually enchanted all of the huntsmen's tier 2s, which they were saving in case of discovering a dupe. With that, he actually made the first ever Explosive 3 Mega Longbow, which has since been sold. Not only do I pity the victims though, but I also pity the perpetrators. Minor Vent is especially known as one of the pit's most infamous scammers, cheaters, and generally not a fun guy to be around, especially if you're on the receiving end of his Billionaire 3. Huntsmen were his closest friends, and he pushed almost all of them away. The dude has issues, like, bruh, just take a look at how he reacted to me bringing up how he and XX Mining Pro stole everything on my storage alt. It was fun burning your shit items. Man, get your mentally problematic ass out of here. The only reason I stick around this community is because, well, the community. Without that, the pit doesn't have any merits other than being a highly exploitable, cheater-infested spin on kit PvP. I've done a lot to bash the perpetrators of this crime, but every story has at least 2 sides. It's impossible to know how someone might react to certain words, and I really have no idea how Cody and Jessica may have been affected by things said to them. As Jessica told me, the scam wasn't planned, but after their arguments, she said, "Our thought process was basically that if they were willing to say all the hurtful things they said about us, we just didn't want to associate with that." I'm not gonna lie, if I had been in her position with the opportunity to snag a couple grand, I probably would have acted exactly the same. As his subjective idea of retribution, Zac actually went and doxed Jessica. Here we have another example of block game going way beyond just being meaningless pixels. Someone gets doxxed every month it seems, including Minikloon, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's illegal. That info isn't going anywhere, and what's done is done. What can I say? The Huntsmen are now a broken group, bitter and resentful. It's clear Jessica isn't going to stick around for long because of her being busy with college. To be fair, I'm not entirely sure what part she had to play in this whole ordeal. What happened between her and Cody is none of my business, but I can't help but wonder if there is a mastermind behind this massive scam, or if things just shattered on their own and some people were lucky enough to end up on top. As for Major Event, I'm honestly indifferent. Initially he was trying to keep the group together, but when it was obvious things were falling apart, the man subtly swapped sides to come out on top to get some extra cash. Say what you want about that, but his beef is between him and his former friends. Personally, I forgave him for all the drama we had, and he's actually a pretty chill dude. You can judge these people for yourself though. The funny thing about all this is that Rezi backed out of the deal, but the damage had already been done, and there's no going back. Welcome to the pit, the least toxic game on Hypixel. Scamming nowadays has literally become the meta, so one player scamming another is less of a big deal than it was before. This is why I don't have a problem with Major Event. It seems like almost every day that a new scam happens, and just in the past few weeks, over $11,000 of items have been unrightfully scammed, stolen, or taken maliciously. At this point, I gotta admit, I'm indifferent. CPL, V5U, Magic Hollows, C5Z, Hermit, Tubby, Max, and Master Diets were all involved with the recent Minecraft block item drama, which I'll be covering soon. Just a reminder, leave a like, subscribe, join the Pitfall Discord, and support me on Patreon if you so please. A half-hour botting documentary is waiting for you there. Thank you, everyone, for watching. My name is Sudi, Pitfall, or should I say, Pit MC, and I'll see you guys next time.